Pastor Diane asked me to share some thoughts that I had about stewardship. And I quickly said yes. And then I started to ponder what would I talk about regarding stewardship? In my opinion, stewardship boils down to the acceptability and the responsibility that we each have to handle the gifts that God has given us. So we are very blessed to have all of these items. I also want to qualify that I am not a poster boy for stewardship. I am on the same journey as all of you are, trying to be a better steward each and every day and finding out ways that I can do that. How can we be better stewards? Well, one of the ways that we can do that is to have outreach. In other words, instead of being focused on ourselves, to look toward others and how we can help them. Another aspect of that is that we are God's hands and feet. And finally, that perhaps it is the smallest things that we do that sometimes have the biggest impact. I have chosen to talk to you about stewardship, about time. And so we each have 24 hours a day. Sometimes the hours go by quite slowly, like if you're waiting in a doctor's office or you're waiting for a phone call. And other times they go quite fast and you're having a good time with family and friends. How can we spend our time? How do you spend your time? I sometimes like to make a log of each waking hour and write down what I'm doing at that time. And then I look and kind of analyze, and sometimes I see I'm really frittering the day away quite a bit. So we all have opportunities to look at our own schedules and what we're doing and how we're utilizing time. So some of the things I want to share with you about times are communication. I like to write cards and send them to people with either joy, encouragement, sympathy, birthdays, anniversaries. I also like to go visit people, whether they're at their homes or whether they're at a hospital or whether they are in a nursing home. And I also like to pick up the phone and call people. And if I don't do that, sometimes I send an email. And although I don't text, I know that many of you do, which is another great way to let people know at an appropriate time that you are thinking of them. Another aspect is prayer. I like to start with prayer early in the morning. And I like to have a prayer list, and thanks to the Dunhams, I have a little prayer box that I put in the prayers that I have for different people. In addition to that, I also like to petition to God what my prayers are for all of these people that I'm thinking about. So that is part of my prayer list, but I also appreciate the prayer shawls that we pass around each Sunday morning. And if you've not been on the receiving end of a prayer shawl, I think you'll find that the feeling of all your prayers that are put into that prayer shawl have a very, very big impact on each individual. I also like to study the Bible. I like to read His Word. And whether you do it as an individual and have daily devotions, or whether you do it as part of a study group. If you do it as a study group, you have an opportunity to share your thoughts on different scriptures, but you also have the opportunity to hear what other people think about as they are looking and interpreting the scriptures. So again, it is very important to have your Bible time each day. I would also say that you want to make sure that as part of your Bible study, you are listening to God. He is trying to tell you something through each of the passages that you read. I would also like to talk about outreach, and that's when we go out beyond ourselves and help others. I think everybody has been very involved in Feed My Sheep. And when you stop and think about it, there's probably 95% of our congregation that are involved somewhere in this outreach. And just recently, you've been given a $5 bill from Pastor Diane and being asked to go out as an outreach with that and help individuals or organizations in a very thoughtful way. And we appreciate that opportunity to do that. There's also many areas of church involvement. We can be in a choir. We can be ushers. We can be greeters. We can also be involved in a lot of the different organizations that are needed to run the church. So when the nomination committee comes to you, or Pastor Diane comes to you and asks you to serve on one of the committees, please consider carefully how that may help you to be a better steward. Last but not least, I think we have to think about time from the standpoint of our family and friends. What is the quality of time you're spending with them? Also, how fragile is the time that we have with our family and friends? In an instant, things can change. So make sure that you share with others how you feel about them. So as you go about this next week, think about how you're spending your time and how you are honoring God by the use of your time.